small Greek town of Itaea, around 120 miles northwest of Athens. For the next 3 days, it's home to round 7 of the World Rally Championship. For 3 of the last 4 years, the Acropolis Rally's been won by British drivers. After Richard Burns' victory here last year, and his 3 wins so far this year in Kenya, Portugal and Argentina, this is yet another event on which the World Championship leader will begin as favourite. The rally also marked Subaru's 10th anniversary in rallying. No wonder team morale was so high.
You would have to say we've got very good reason to be optimistic at the moment. We did, like you say, it's the first event I won last year, and the car's been pretty good in every other similar type of event. So we have to look forward to the event with quite a lot of confidence, but still I think be well aware that it can bite back.
It's a tough event and it is very hard, but it's enjoyable as well. You get a good sense of satisfaction when you get a good result at the end of it.
This year the crews would have to wear full overalls on the stages, so McRae's teammate was taking advantage of the chance to keep cool.
It's always a problem, even with a t-shirt on. It gets pretty warm in the car. Obviously it is going to be worse this year, but there's not a lot we can do about it really. Just drink lots of water and cope with it.
It does get very hot inside the car. It gets between 60 and 70 degrees Celsius in the car. So obviously over 3 days and 4 hours inside that car competing at that temperature, you need to be thinking of ourselves as well as the car's performance. So I don't know if we've got a secret weapon, but we've put some thought into that area.
Richard still has a good lead. I mean, he can relax a bit if he wants to, but I'm sure he's not going to. I mean, he'll extend his lead when he can, and this is a rally that's going to suit Subaru and Pirelli tyres, and also Richard, so I'm sure he's not going to be settling for second or third. But that would be great for us. Obviously, it keeps the interest there. It keeps us close enough to fight for the title.
What's going to happen over the next 3 days?
All of the drivers are going to get very hot and bothered, and all of the cars are going to get very tired, and at the end the strongest combination will win.
It's difficult for the tires and for the suspension of the car, and it's very, very rough roads. But for me it's not so rough as last year, so it's a bit better, so I hope for a good rally.
Of course it is a little bit some pressure. I try to just do my work as well last weekend, and I have a feeling we have a good chance to win this year. I have been many years, last 3 years I've been quite unlucky. We have been some difficulties and we never won this rally before, and I'm quite pretty sure that we have a good chance to.
Alistair, what was the reaction to that point from Argentina?
Yeah, obviously for Hyundai it's a real big thing to get a point, and only their 4th rally with the new car is really good.
You told me earlier in the year that New Zealand may well be a turning point, so are you looking forward to this one, or do you just wanted to get it out the way with?
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. We've done some more testing since Argentina. I would say we've found a bit with the car. We obviously need to find more, but we've found a bit with the car, so we'll see how it goes here. Then obviously looking forward to New Zealand.
The rally may have been based in Itaea, but it started in Athens, with the first day's 5 stages set around the service park in Inoi, 30 miles to the northeast. Championship leaders Richard Burns and Robert Reid duly led the crews off the start ramp, with their great rivals Colin McRae and Nicky Grist running 5th and hoping to benefit from a cleaner surface on the loose stages. But it was the ever-improving package of Marcus Gronholm and his Peugeot 206 that would set the pace on stage 1, just over 2 seconds faster than McRae and nearly 13 up on Burns in just under 13 miles. Impressive stuff. Pipped by both Fords on the short stage 2, the lanky Finn held a slender 1.5 second lead going to stage 3. As Gronholm was running second on the road, Burns could hardly blame the surface for his lack of pace, and indeed he was more concerned by the discomfort of wearing a triple layer fire suit inside the hot cockpit of his Subaru.
K right, tightens and K right, 20, K left, and K left in, 40, fast right minus.
If Burns was hot and bothered, world champion Tommy Mackinnon was near to boiling. He could only manage 8th fastest on stage 1, 5th on stage 2, and then on stage 3... he clipped a rock, broke a wheel and lost 1.5 minutes. At least he fared better than his teammate Freddie Loix, who would be heading back to Belgium after just one stage.
I don't know exactly, because we don't know, but in the middle of the stage we lost something on the suspension, and 200-300 meters later the complete McPherson with the wheel and everything connect off. So we had to finish the stage about 18 kilometers more on 3 wheels, and then on the end of the finish the car was quite destroyed.
Fastest on stage 2, Colin McRae and Nicky Grist repeated that performance on stage 3 to move into the lead. Their Spanish colleagues, Carlos Sainz and Luis Moya, meanwhile, had moved up into second place, thanks to setting the second fastest time on both those 2 stages. It could well have been an all-Ford top 3, but the stunning early pace of the team's up-and-coming star Petter Solberg came to a shuddering halt on stage 3.
We came too fast into corner, for sure, and then I jumped up on the bank, and I couldn't come out, and it was 20 people there, and nobody wanted to come and help me. And I begged on my knees, and 4 people came at the end, but 7 minutes, you know.
At least Solberg was still going, unlike Kenneth Eriksson in the Hyundai. 4th fastest on stage 1 and 11th on stage 2, engine failure after stage 3 meant the Swede was out, leaving Alistair McRae to fly the flag for the Hyundai team. Eriksson wasn't alone. Luis Clement Skoda retired after losing a wheel on stage 3. Still running, but having a torrid time with the 2 Seats. Power steering failure and engines which didn't like the heat meant both Oriol and Gardemeister would be outside the top 10. After just 3 stages, the first service area witnessed several cars reduced to 3 wheels. Mäkinen surveyed his damage, while the reason for Marcus Gronholm dropping from 1st to 30th was painfully obvious. The Finn nursed the car to service. Burns and Mäkinen sympathised, no doubt relieved that Gronholm's threat had all but been eliminated.
I cut one corner, one very, very slow corner too much, and there was some concrete pole in the bushes, and bam! Suddenly we were on the roof, but we came on the wheels again, so we lost in the roll only 10 seconds, but then to drive without one wheel in the front with the suspension, everything broken, so 5 minutes.
The Peugeot mechanics would have their work cut out to repair the damage in just the allowed 20 minutes.
First and second at the moment.
Yes, let's hope we can build on that. I mean, tomorrow is another long day, and okay, there is a bit of an issue as to whether running first on the road or 5th on the road is going to make a difference. But I think the way we're going, we could end up with like a 40-45 second lead tomorrow, in which case it won't make that much difference at all.
And on the day's last 2 stages, the British crew would indeed increase their lead over the Spaniards to just under 40 seconds.
And 3 left plus. And 6 right and 3 right.
The views may have been spectacular, but neither Focus crew had time to appreciate them as they battled for supremacy. But Sainz was now being handicapped, first by a malfunctioning dashboard and then by a troublesome differential on stage 5, where he lost a full 20 seconds to his teammate. François Delacour now led the Peugeot challenge, lying 3rd, 35 seconds behind Sainz and nearly 50 ahead of the leading Subaru, which was now that of Juha Kankkunen, as Richard Burns had steadily dropped from 3rd to 5th with both shock absorber and brake problems. At least the championship leader got to the end of leg 1, because the current title holder didn't.
On stage 3 broken half shaft and also same thing on stage 4, and 5th stage was over 30 kilometers long, and with 3 wheels it was impossible to continue.
Time to go home for the Mitsubishi boys, and Alistair McRae wouldn't be far behind them.
Medium right opens. And something's broken. Medium right open and.
He and David Senior got their Hyundai out of stage 5, but it wasn't going much further.
We've had a puncture. I just tell them we broke the front track again. We basically just did the front tyres were wearing more heavily than the rear, and in the last stage it 2 punctures towards the end of the stage, 3Ks from the end, and I drove out on the rims, but it broke the steering, and that was as we got to service, but we were OTL.
Big Brother returned to Inouye as leader, with just the advantage his co-driver had wanted. Colin, 38-second lead tonight. It's all going according to plan?
Yeah, very much so. There's no problems with the car, thankfully. A couple of punctures earlier on today, but the mousse worked very well and we didn't lose any time at all.
The temperatures and that unpopular overalls rule were taking their toll, however. How's Robert? We understand he wasn't very well at the end of the last stage.
No, he wasn't. Wasn't very well at all. He passed out with the heat.
Is he okay now?
It's okay now, yeah.
Can anything be done?
I hope so. You know, if we're wearing T-shirts in the car, then we're wearing T-shirts for a reason. We're the ones who are in danger inside the car. The reason we have to wear these is for our own safety. And personally, I believe that we're putting ourselves at more risk at the moment wearing these and raising our own temperatures.
38.5 seconds McRae's lead at the end of leg one, with Burns and a recovering Robert Reid already over 2 minutes down in 5th place, and the privately entered focus of Stephen Findlay, a superb 6th overall. 7 stages made up leg 2, which looped around the service area at Parnassos, about an hour's drive north of Itaea. So the Acropolis keeps alive its tradition of being a car breaker. Both Mitsubishis are out, both Hyundais are out, and Subaru and Peugeot have each had problems. It seems Ford were the only team to come out of leg one unscathed, but how long that'll continue is anyone's guess. One good piece of news at the start of leg two is that the rules regarding overalls have been relaxed. Overnight, the stewards had decided to allow the crews to wear whatever they wanted. McRae and Grist were one of the few crews who were happy in the full 3-layer overalls. A slow puncture cost precious seconds on the day's opening stage, but the focus was quickest on the next, and so the pair's lead was still over 34 seconds. Sainz was second fastest on stage 6, and then third quickest on 7. A helmet fault, leaving Luis Moya using his headset microphone, their only problem.
Juha Kankkunen had no such problems on the day's opening stage, yet was over 35 seconds slower than his pace-setting teammate, allowing Richard Burns to move ahead of him into 4th. Which would soon become 3rd when the Englishman caught a struggling François Delacour on the very next stage.
20.
Simon, or somebody, can you get Delacour out of the way?
K right, 40. Easy left, 40. Flat right. 100. 90 left, plus tightens maybe.
We're past him, okay.
Delacour's problem was all too obvious when he reached the next service. More work for the hard-pressed Peugeot crew.
First of all, we had to puncture about 7 kilometers from the start of the stage. After that, we broke the pipe of the brake. Then we had no brake anymore in the descent. And we had about 90 Ks to do like that. And after we damaged the wheel, everything, and they try to fix the problem now.
Can they fix it?
I hope so.
They had to fix a Subaru as well, as Kankkunen arrived at the service with a hole in the wing where there shouldn't be one, much to Ford boss Malcolm Wilson's amusement. Juha's front suspension had collapsed, and now it was the Subaru mechanic's turn to play beat the clock. They just failed by a couple of minutes, so the Finn had to take a 20-second penalty, but he still held 4th place.
The next 3 stages probably aren't going to suit you as much, are they?
They won't. No, the next 3 are going to be the worst today for cleaning. There's a lot of very slower uphill stuff where we really need traction and a lot of gravel, so we are going to lose a bit, but we just have to accept that.
You seem fairly happy with the way things are going at the moment?
Yeah, no, pretty happy.
To his surprise, McRae didn't suffer as expected, the 1995 world champion only losing around 1.5 seconds to Sainz over the 3 stages. Thankfully, he didn't lose his concentration either.
And left and 3 right plus, opens long, don't cut. Into 5 left, 50. 6 right, 30, 3 right plus tightens, into 2 left.
Sainz was faster than his teammate on 2 of the 3, but the gap between the pair was still over 30 seconds, with over half the rally completed. It still seemed that the 2 Fords were unbreakable, shrugging off the worst the rally could throw at them and avoiding the kind of damage that was sidelining the opposition. The latest casualty was Gronholm, who'd recovered to 7th place.
Fixed for Timo. Engine. There is no engine anymore, and the left rear wheel is bent in.
Problem on stage 8, we have to fill up 1.5 liter oil in the engine. It was something wrong, but the engine was running okay. And then on stage 9 we had two problems. First, some rod in the suspension. One arm was broken, but okay, we could continue. But then after that the engine stopped.
By now both the Seats were also out, but the team boss was putting a brave face on things.
The only way to do it is one step forward. You cannot never go backwards, no? And one step forward means to walk double time, 3 times, and look the things and analyze, well done, analyze or not everything, and to improve for the next one.
Richard Burns and Robert Reid were still third, but now nearly 2.5 minutes behind McRae and Grist, overheating suspension dampers slowing the championship leaders.
The first one went well. The second, which we really expected a lot of time, we lost the brakes after 10 kilometers, rear brakes after 10 kilometers. A stone had hit a pipe off, and we completed the stage and lost under a second, so that was perfect. And the next one, we tried to do the best we could in the time we had in the road section. Unfortunately, couldn't bleed the brakes, and we had to do the next one with the car in the same state, and came out there, I think, fastest. So, I mean, that was perfect.
With all the top works cars apart from Ford's falling to pieces, Japanese star Toshihiro Arai quietly moved his private Subaru to 4th place by the end of the day, as Kankanen's machine slid backwards, still not quite right after its rebuild. Armin Schwartz now had his Skoda up to 6th and was also closing in on the crippled Subaru. As usual, what the Czech machine lacked in pace, it made up for in reliability. Something Francois Delacour's Peugeot was sadly short of when it decided to give him a better look at the view. Fortunately, reverse was still working, even if the steering wasn't. A small fire added to his and co-driver Daniel Grateloup's dramas, but at least it gave the local fire crew a bit of practice.
We had a problem with the cross member or something like that at the front. The car went on the right side suddenly, in a long straight line, and I was very afraid because I had not the control of the car. And after that I continued until the end of the set, very, very slow with Daniel, and we saw the car burning at the back of the car, and the spectator was doing some sign to show us the fire. We had a lot of damage and we lost 6-7 minutes.
The Peugeot was now down in 13th, 10 places behind a reasonably content Richard Burns.
We've had, I think, 4 fastest times over the day, and they've generally been on the stages that have been quite a lot smoother. But as soon as it gets rough, then with the shock absorber problem we've been having, I haven't been able to really push for fear of damaging the car. So, well, 3rd position is probably the best we could achieve at the moment.
Richard's now a long way behind you. Will you be told, do you think, to hold station 1-2?
The moment, nothing has been said. It's still a long day tomorrow.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You're something like 50 seconds clear of Carlos now and minutes ahead of Richard and the rest of the pack. Does that mean that Malcolm will at some point say, right, calm down, hold position, that's the position you're going to finish in?
At the moment, no. I mean, you really need to ask him about that. Obviously, we still... Tomorrow, I should be able to take it a bit steadier and be more and more careful all the time. It just depends what Carlos is going to do.
McRae would start the final leg with an advantage of 48.1 seconds over the other Focus driver, while Burns looked to have settled for 3rd. Arai, Kankanen and Schwartz rounded off the top 6. Leg 3 again used the Parnassos service park, while the day's 7 stages consisted of no fewer than 5 repeats. 7:30 Sunday morning, and as the cars leave Itaea for the last time, Colin McRae knows that he's just 7 stages away from taking his 2nd win of the year. However, of the 14 manufacturers' cars which started the rally, we're down to just 6, and who knows what delights leg 3 has in store. McRae and Grist began cautiously, 9 seconds slower than Sainz on stage 13, the day's first. Burns might have been 3 minutes adrift, but the threat was still there. Sainz and Moya were fastest on that opening stage. They'd gambled on taking just 1 spare tyre, and the gamble paid off. They were again faster than their teammates on stage 14, but by then, the pressure on the 2 Fords had lifted considerably.
Yeah, we're in the stage and the power's guys just dropped off to like nothing, and I'm just cruising along. It's still moving, but it's like I've got about 40 horsepower.
As driver and co-driver searched for the cause of the problem, their mechanics could only listen to the drama, as powerless as the Impreza itself.
Less than under a minute. You need to start it. Try again on the starter motor, or if it won't start, we have to forget it. There's nothing. That's it. We're out of time. Sorry about that.
Burns' girlfriend Saffron shared Richard and Robert's despair. This was only their second retirement of the year, and by the time the pair were helicoptered back, the cause was still a mystery.
Fair to say we haven't had the best of rallies here, and we've had a bit of bad luck already, and it was sort of the final straw that broke the camel's back. You know, we were obviously and are not very happy about it, but there we go, it's going to happen sometime.
Third place was okay, and 4 points would have been quite good. It would have meant that we'd have had an 18-point lead, but I think we're lucky that we've come away still with a 14-point lead, even though Colin and Carlos will have closed the gap. It's still nice to, lucky to come away still with the same lead.
Despite Burns' retirement, Sainz had cut McRae's lead to just 28 seconds, so was there still a fight?
Not after this service there wouldn't be, so I mean, it's absolutely crazy. We've got 16 manufacturers' points and there's no point in us fighting between each other.
Carlos, we understand, only took one spare out this morning. He's determined to catch you.
Yeah, but okay, now, I mean, as I say, there's no point. What's the point in doing it? We've got to finish in the position we're in.
Carlos didn't look so sure, but no one was daring to ask him. However, a second spare was quietly slipped into his boot.
Now that Richard's out of the equation, then we've implemented team orders that the positions will stay as they are. It's always a difficult position to be in, to do something like this, but I think both drivers have driven absolutely fantastic, and it's so important for us from a Manufacturers' Championship point of view to get the maximum points.
So Colin McRae was a dutiful 7th fastest on stage 15, taking 8 minutes and 8 seconds to complete the 6 miles, which Carlos Sainz covered in just 7 minutes 47 to cut the lead down to a slender 7.7 seconds. Behind all this high drama, Juha Kankkunen quietly moved past Toshihiro Arai and then inherited third when Burns retired. He might be 8 minutes behind, but he was ready to accept any last-minute gifts resulting from Ford's battle, which by stage 17 was led by Carlos Sainz.
We've basically driven cautiously to save the car. You know, we've kept a nice pace through these last 3, exactly the same pace throughout, and obviously things have happened.
But you look confident. What's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, it's up to the team management.
What's going to happen?
Nothing.
Will you win this rally?
No, I don't think so. You know, at the end of the day, it's the case. It's very clear.
The very public disobedience of their orders was infuriating the Ford team management, but there was one crumb of comfort. Petter Solberg was fastest on all but 2 of the final day stages, before transmission failure forced him out at the very last service area. Behind the Ford fiasco, privateer Abdullah Bakashab and British co-driver Bobby Willis brought their Toyota home in 6th place. 5th was the Skoda Octavia of Armin Schwartz and Manfred Heimer, the result lifting the Czech team above Seat in the Manufacturers' Series. 4th was Arai with another British co-driver, Roger Freeman. Juha Kankkunen was then able to finish on the podium, despite the damage incurred on leg 2. 4 points hardly seemed like just reward for the team's efforts, but Kankkunen was happy enough. The question now was what was going to happen at the head of the leaderboard. McRae and Grist were again slower than Sainz and Moya on the penultimate stage, leaving the British pair 1 minute 37 seconds behind the Spaniards, going into stage 19. Sainz, though, had a stiff talking to from the team bosses and knew what had to be done. McRae again cruised through the final stage, and Grist radioed through as they crossed the finish line. It wasn't just in the 2 cars that sums were being done, however.
12-2.
Well done, boys. Great job.
Thank you very much to you guys as well. Great job from you.
Carlos had to drop around 2 minutes to allow Colin to win, and sure enough, he obliged in the most public way possible, pulling over just 100 yards from the end of the stage. Opening the car's bonnet to at least look as though he had a problem, Sainz was passed by Kankkunen and then got going again. Exactly 2 minutes were lost, allowing McRae to win and prompting words of praise from his boss.
Carlos and Lewis, many congratulations for a professional job. Thank you very much.
Tellingly, it was Moyer, not Sainz, who congratulated McRae as they waited to check into the last service area. The stewards would later reprimand the team for its behaviour. As far as the issue of team orders is concerned, the FIA had thought they'd banned it. Ford, though, got the result they wanted.
Few anxious moments this afternoon?
Not really. I mean, the main thing was just to keep the car in the straight and narrow and avoid all the rocks. And we had such a gap behind that it was a fairly easy job.
Were you surprised at Carlos's attitude?
Yes, a bit. I mean, there was no need really to push that hard. It was putting the car at risk, and the brief was to get 2 cars to the finish. That's what we were doing.
Obviously, I'm disappointed a little bit not to be able to fight until the end, especially because I knew that this situation could happen. So we discussed about that beginning of the year, and I thought it was clear that until the end of the season, no team over this will be applied. I'm saying that, of course, if I the end of the year, somebody has to help the other. I think it's normal, but at the moment it must be a fair until the last time control.
Felt for me like the winter rally, end of the last stage, because all the problems we had on the first day and yesterday, they were really struggling all the time, and Ford went so strongly without anything. So I mean, difficult to say afterwards. Even without our problems, we maybe couldn't stay in the same speed, but still, third place is very good.
Despite the pantomime, the Ford pair still had over 6 minutes in hand ahead of Kankkunen's Subaru, with Arai, Schwartz and Bakashab picking up the remaining drivers' points. Richard Burns may well have kept his 14-point lead intact, but there are now 2 drivers in second place and 2 in fourth, just 1 point further adrift. One more slip and the pack will be snapping at the Englishman's heels. In the manufacturers' table, Ford dramatically closed the gap to Subaru, while the mammoth effort by the Peugeot crew getting Delacour's car home in 9th netted them 2 points and moved them clear of Mitsubishi in 3rd.
Ford's 1-2 has put Colin McRae firmly back in contention for the World Drivers' title, but the very public way it was engineered has left a nasty taste in many people's mouths, not least of whom is Mr. Sainz. More seriously, it's also attracted the attention of the sport's governing body. Round 8 of the championship kicks off the second half of the season. The Rally New Zealand is in 5 weeks' time.